everyone, I'm Tabitha and I've read 5 more books. Watchers of this channel will already know this, but I do book reviews every time I've read 5 books. You should know that I don't read just one specific age category or genre. I'm actually a reader of pretty much anything. So I will make sure to tell you what age category, what genre it is, and more importantly, what kind of readers I think will love the book that I'm reviewing. I do use a 5-star rating system to review all my books, so I'd like to take a quick second to tell you about that system. 5-star ratings are reserved for books that I absolutely love, that I think transcend genre. In other words, you might love this one even if you don't normally read the genre it's written in. 4-star books, on the other hand, are books that I absolutely love and think are great books, but they're more specific to the genre they are written for. 3-star ratings are for books that I think are good books, but they have a really niche audience. You might not love this one, even if you normally read this genre. 2-star ratings are the ratings I reserve for books that I think are problematic. I do try to explain some of the problems in the what I didn't love section so that you know if it's the kind of thing that would really bother you or not. 1-star rating, on the other hand, are reserved for books that I honestly didn't enjoy and can't recommend. They're just not for me. All right, with that out of the way, let's get to the reviews. The next book I read for the month of January is Songs of the Humpback Whale by Jodi Picoult. This is a 2001 publication by Washington Square Press. It is adult age category and genre it would be contemporary. This one is 346 pages. Your synopsis. For years, Jane has lived in the shadow of her world-renowned scientist husband, Oliver. But in the wake of an argument, Jane will take her daughter and flee from Oliver across the country. So what didn't I like about this one? Well, the first thing is that this book is told in 5 different perspectives, one of which is told backwards. That makes the timelines of this one incredibly confusing. It causes a lot of repetition that sometimes was entirely unnecessary, as all 5 characters are going to tackle the exact same event. It also caused a lot of spoilers because one of them was telling things backwards. In fact, the second thing I didn't like about this one is the ending. Because one timeline is told in reverse, it turns out that you know of the ending of this story much earlier than you want to, meaning it gives you a sense that there's nothing to read this book for because you already know exactly what's coming. The third thing I didn't like about this book is the character of Jane. She's hypocritical, argumentative, judgmental, and basically my least favorite kind of character all rolled up into one character. It made her an incredibly frustrating person to read, and she's one of the main 5 people telling the story. The last thing I didn't like about this one is that it seemed to me that it was filled with romances that were uncomfortable through the entire book. There's adultery, there's sexual assault, there's uncomfortable age differences in characters, there's toxic relationships. I mean, overall, there's even a few scenes that I wasn't expecting that take this almost to an erotica almost level. Basically, it made the romance in this one incredibly uncomfortable. So what did I like about this book? Rebecca turns out to be an actually interesting character, which is interesting because she's the one that goes backwards. So you'd think since that threw off 2 things about the book for me, I wouldn't like her. But Rebecca herself is an interesting character. She reads as the adult in her family, even though she's the teenager. She's the most grounded and the most mature out of all these characters, even though she's the youngest. And I actually liked her for that. The second thing I liked about this book is Sam as a character. I feel like there's so much more of Sam's story here than we got to explore. He was probably the least explored character, and I liked him the most. I almost would read an offshoot book about Sam, especially now that Jodi Picoult is more established and her books are better. I almost feel like if she came back to Sam, I would read another book with him. He was that interesting. Who do I think should read this one? If you're looking for a book about families that totally fall apart and then try to put themselves back together, I think you might like this one maybe even more than I did. If the idea of 5 different perspectives telling a story, one of which is backwards, appeals to you, you might like this book more than I did. My rating, overall, I went 2 stars for this one. It was really problematic for me with the timelines and the way the story was told, and it ended up frustrating me more than anything else. So although I love Jodi's stories, this one gets 2 stars. 2 stars for Songs of the Humpback Whale by Jodi Picoult. The next book I finished in the month of January is The Nightingale by Kristin. This is an adult age category historical fiction novel. It was published in 2015 by St. Martin's Press, and it is 440 pages. Your synopsis. Set in Nazi-occupied France in 1939, this is a book about inner strength, love, saving others, and finding the strength to fight. So what didn't I like about this one? The first thing I can say I didn't like is that I think I picked up on some inconsistencies in the timeline. I did not go back and reread chapters to make sure that they were inconsistencies, and they were very minor. But a reread might show that that's more frustrating or might clear those up. I'm not sure. And they, like I said, they were minor if they were there. The second thing I can say I didn't like about this one, and I knew it going in, knowing what this book was about, is that it honestly has some scenes that are really hard to read. This book is set in Nazi-occupied France during World War II. There's going to be scenes that are very emotionally draining and really tough to read. I was expecting it, but that doesn't make it any easier. So what did I like about this one? I can say that I've read a lot of World War II novels before this one, and they're all very different than this one in a lot of ways. I like the way that this one spun a little and handled the past slightly differently. It's not set in a concentration camp. It's not following a Jewish family that went into hiding. It's set in Nazi-occupied France, so it's a different take on the story. I found it to be historically accurate as far as the studies that I have done, and I enjoyed that take on the story. The second thing I liked about this one is that the entire focus of this book is on the strength of women, and I found that to be kind of amazing. The book is packed with women who overcome things that you can't even imagine them being in. They face it head on and overcome them, and every one of these women was amazingly strong in so many ways. And I know that these stories are similar to stories that really happened, and that made them even better. The third thing I can like about this one is that it has an overall emphasis on rebuilding yourself, healing, and love. It's not a perfect story, and it's not a perfect ending, but I loved the undertone and the message with this book. So who do I think should read this one? If you're looking for a story set in World War II that highlights a different aspect of what was happening than maybe the things you've heard before, I think you would like this one. If you want a story of unlikely heroes emerging during a war, definitely check this one out. Overall, my rating for this one was 4 stars. This book, I think, will satisfy historical fiction readers who want World War II era books. It's well written and it's heart-wrenching. So 4 stars for The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah. The next book I read in the month of January is not a genre you normally hear me read. So let me give you a little background on this. On my Facebook group, I asked recently for people to give me the names of their absolute favorite authors. One person commented that her favorite author was Nicholas Sparks. Now, I know Nicholas Sparks writes romance, so I asked her, reminding her I don't love romance, if she could give me the name of her absolute favorite. And so my next book is the one that was recommended, The Lucky One by Nicholas Sparks. This is a 2008 publication by Grand Central Publishing. It is adult age category and, of course, is a romance book. This one is 326 pages. Your synopsis. U.S. Marine Logan finds a photograph on his 3rd tour in Iraq that may become a lucky charm. After the tour is over, Logan will set out in search of the woman in the photograph. So what didn't I like about this one? Actually, there's not as much as I would expect from a romance, but there were some things I didn't like. The first one is Clayton. As a character, I didn't like him at all, but he's the bad guy, so you're not supposed to like him. So props to Nicholas Sparks for having the most disgusting misogynistic character in his book be that way intentionally. The second thing I can say I didn't like about this one is that the ending felt a little too obvious and a little too, let's neatly wrap up everything with a bow for my tastes. The third thing I didn't like about this one, and I expected it, is that everyone in this book is absolutely perfect and absolutely gorgeous. It's a romance, so I kind of saw it coming, but there were quite a few points where I had to stop, take myself out of the book to laugh at it. Like, we get it. They're perfect and they're gorgeous. Move on. So what did I like about this one? Because I actually found quite a few things to like. The first one is the character of Ben. He's a cute kid. He's a smart kid. And I like the relationship he had with the dog in this book. In fact, the second thing I like about this one is Zeus, the dog. I'm such a sucker for dogs in books, and this dog was such a good boy. I'm so glad he was in the story. I loved reading about him, and he seriously added something to the other characters he interacted with, which was really cool. The third thing I liked about this book, and I didn't expect to like it, but I really did, is that the romance is well done. It's a slow burn romance, and it doesn't get too hot too fast, and it's definitely not erotica romance. It's just a slow burn, adorable romance. I see why this book was recommended to me. It is the best of things I like in young adult romance, but in an adult age category romance, and I really like that. So this was a good recommendation. Who do I think should read this one? I think if you like good emotional stories with slow burn romance, you will love this one. In fact, my rating for this one, I'm going to say 4 stars. If you like romance, you will like this romance. It's a well done romance. Nicholas Sparks knows exactly what his audience likes in a book, and he gave it to them. So 4 stars to The Lucky One by Nicholas Sparks. The next book I read in the month of January is Violent Ends. This has various authors. It was published in 2018 by Simon Pulse. It is a young adult contemporary story, and it is 384 pages. Your synopsis. Told by 17 young adult authors in 17 different viewpoints, this is the story of a school shooting. But it isn't really about that day. It's about the people affected by that day. A little disclaimer or a note that I should mention before I start. I read Mercy Rule by Tom Levine, who is one of the authors in this anthology, before reading Violent Ends, even though Violent Ends was published first. The reason why I mention that is because Mercy Rule and Violent Ends have very similar topics, very similar styles, in that they are both around school shootings and dealing with characters around them. I may have appreciated Violent Ends more if I wasn't comparing it to the genius that was Mercy Rule. So I just want to put that out as a disclaimer. So what didn't I like about this book? Well, the first thing I can say I didn't like about this is there are people, characters, who appear in multiple stories, which makes sense, obviously. But the reason why I have to list this as something I didn't like is because there are a lot of characters and there's a lot of overlap. And I found myself sometimes having to hunt back through a previous story to trigger my memory of who that character was or how they were related or where we were. That could be frustrating a little bit at times, but then it also kind of led to the puzzle of piecing this all together. So do with that information what you will. Second thing I can say I didn't particularly like about this one, and this is obvious, but I should mention it anyway, is this one is very hard to read. The subject matter on a basic level, school shooting, would be hard enough, but this one is also going to dig into stories of abuse and bullying. There's trans characters, there's stalking, there's even a hint at an inappropriate teacher. So there's really a lot to unpack in this book that is going to make you uncomfortable. But again, I think that was the point. The third thing I can say I didn't like about this one, and actually this is not true, I didn't mind it, I'm warning you that you might not, is that this book isn't going to be neatly tied up with a bow. If you watch this channel, you know that I don't necessarily feel like stories need to be. We don't get all the answers in life, and that is the brilliance of some authors, especially contemporary authors. This story is no different. With an event like this, you aren't going to have all the answers at the end of the day, and this book definitely doesn't give you all of them. So if you're looking for satisfying answers or reasons why, maybe this isn't the book for you. So what did I like about this one? This big one, this is a huge, huge, huge big one. The various authors here each take a character affected by that day, and they do an amazing, amazing job. In my opinion, every single one of these stories is well written. If I were to individually rate the 17 stories in this book, they'd range from 3.5 to 4.5, possibly even 5 stars. They are absolutely wonderful, wonderful stories, and they're all very, very close in quality. Taken together as a whole, they paint a picture of an absolutely tragic day from 17 different angles. It's a puzzle that puts it all together for you, and it's just an incredibly well done anthology. The second thing I like about this book is that this book does not just focus on that day. It's before, it's after, it's day of. Together, they paint this puzzle that you're really piecing together, and it's just really, I can't say enough about how incredibly wonderful this anthology is at looking at an entire group of people, even though the timeline is long. The third thing I can say about this one is it is just powerful. It's one of those books that shows how connected people can be, even if they don't realize it. It's amazing in that complexity, which is part of the reason why I didn't mind flipping back and forth, because it was to show how connected we all can be. There are just threads of so many people moving through us every day, and that theme came across big in this book. Really, this book is very smart writing, and I imagine it must have been a really cool project for these 17 authors. So who do I think should read this one? Number one, you have to be a reader who can handle dark subject matter to tackle this one. If you want to look at a tough topic through different lenses, this is a do not miss. You're going to love it. Also, readers who like stories where characters are being forced to analyze their relationships with others and the decisions that they made leading up to and after a dark event like this, you're going to love this one. My rating, overall, I went 4 stars for this one. It's a brilliant collection of stories by a talented group of authors. It will definitely appeal to readers who can handle this dark subject matter. This one is recommended. 4 stars for Violent Ends. All right, the 15th book for January, the 5th and final book for this video, The Chalk Man by CJ Tudor. This is a 2018 release by Crown Publishing Group. It's an adult age category mystery thriller. It is 280 pages long. Your synopsis. In 1986, Eddie and his friends follow mysterious chalk figures to the body of a girl. In 2016, Eddie is fully grown and realizes that he's going to have to confront what really happened all those years ago. So what didn't I like about this one? Eddie. I didn't love him. I didn't love him as a narrator. There were things about him that just fully irritated me. I can't put my finger on exactly why, except to say that I never trusted him, and I got the feeling I was supposed to, which was a big oops for me. Second thing I didn't particularly like about this one is the pacing. Okay, unpopular opinion pending. I thought this book started too slow. I expected more thrills because this was a really, really hyped thriller. Like, I kept hearing about it and other booktubers have talked about it a lot. So I expected a lot from this thriller, and I just wanted to be scared more than I was for that first half. Sorry. The third thing I didn't like about this one, I mean, in a thriller, you kind of expect it, but still let this serve as a warning. This book does have sexual assault, and it does have really graphic murders. So consider this your content warning. If those things bother you, you may want to skip this one. So what did I like about this one? The ending. By now, you know I like to be left thinking. I think this book delivered on that. It gave me the right amount of answers combined with things that make me think. This ending was brilliant. I loved it. Second thing I liked about this one is it is a satisfying puzzle. This book is going to make you think. It's going to make you track the story and look for clues you may have missed, and I love books like that. Once this one kicks in, the puzzle is really pleasing. Third thing I liked about this one is the writing style. Tudor uses fresh metaphors, descriptive language, and chapter cliffhangers correctly. I am a big fan of this style, and I will definitely look for more by her. So who do I think should read this one? If you are a mystery thriller reader who likes unraveling puzzles and you like looking for clues, you're going to love this one. If you're a fan of dual storylines, that 1986-2016 storyline is really going to please you. You're going to like that one. My overall rating, I said 4 stars. This one is definitely going to satisfy mystery thriller readers. 4 stars for The Chalk Man by CJ Tudor. All right, that's it for me and my book reviews. If you're keeping track, that puts me at 15 reviews for the month of January, even though it's February right now. I'll be coming back to you soon with a few more because I think I'm already 3 more past this. Drop a comment to let me know you're here. Hit subscribe and tap that little bell so you know when I'm back. Keep plotting the path to your dreams, and I'll see you next time. Bye!